Hello guys, so in today's video we are going to discuss the solution of the problem find transition point. Okay, let us go through the problem statement. So the problem statement says that we are given a sorted array containing only zeros and ones. So the array is sorted and contains only zeros and one. Find the transition point, that is the first index where 1 was observed, and before that only 0 was observed. So for example, this is the array which is given to us, and this is the transition point. Before, all the elements before to this are zeros, and all the elements after this including this is 1. So the transition point is 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. 3 is the index there. So that is what we have to return, and in case there isn't exist a transition point, we have to return -1. Okay, so let us look at the solution for this. So since we know that the array is sorted, so the first thing which should pop up in our mind is binary search. Whenever we see a sorted array, we should look for binary search, and here also we will do binary search in order to get the transition point. So for instance, in our example, the array contains these elements. Okay, so let me write down the indexes as well: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the start index is 0, the end index is 4, right? So this is my end index, and this is my start index. Okay, and my mid is what? So mid, we will say the mid, right? So the mid is basically, we can write it down as start plus end minus start divided by 2. So in our case, the mid will be 2, right? So our mid index is 2. So once we are at mid index, we will see whether ARR, and let us say the name of this array is ARR. If ARR mid equals to 1, right? So we want to find out the transition point, so the value should be 1, and also ARR mid -1, right? So all the elements left to the transition point should be 0. So ARR mid -1 should be 0, right? So if we see such an index, then that is our transition point, and in such cases we will return mid, right? In such cases we will return mid, and let me use this and here, and let us say this particular condition is not satisfied. So for example, in this particular case, mid is 2, and ARR mid is what? ARR mid is what? ARR mid is equals to 0. So clearly this condition is not satisfied. If this condition is not satisfied, we need to adjust our start and end indexes appropriately, right? So if, let me use a different ink for this. If this condition is not satisfied, that simply means that ARR mid could be 0 or 1, right? Remember, it might be possible that this is satisfied but this is not satisfied, right? So that is why when we are adjusting start and end, we will check what was the value of ARR mid. If ARR mid equals to 0, in such cases, so for instance here we were there and ARR mid is 0, so in such cases we know for sure that this this portion of subarray or this portion of the array does not contain our transition point. So because of which we will update our start to mid plus 1. Okay, now we will look for our transition point in this array. Okay, now if mid is is not equals to 0, then mid will be equals to 1, in which case we will adjust our end pointer to mid minus 1. Okay, so that's about the condition, and there is one more special case which we need to consider of, which is basically the array could be, right, the array could be of all zeros, right, 0 0 0, so it contains all 0. So in which case neither this condition will never be satisfied, and by the end of the loop we will return -1. We'll look into code where exactly we are returning -1, but this is one condition to be aware of. So this is basically in binary search, when we don't find the element, then we can return -1, right? The other case is basically all the elements in the array is just 1, right? So this is just 1 1 1 and so on, right? So in this particular case, since the transition point is at index 0 itself, so we should return, so our transition point is 0 in this particular case. So in order to accommodate, but if you look at this condition, right, this particular condition, if you look at this condition will never be satisfied, right? So we need to change this condition, or rather enhance this condition. So this is fine, this has to be 1, and mid -1 has to be equals to 0, but it might be possible that the array does not contain 0 at all. So in which case this will be an OR. This particular condition, let me use a different ink for this condition should be an OR over here, and either this is satisfied or mid -1 is less than 0, right? So if mid -1 is less than 0, that simply means we have encountered 1, but there isn't exist any 0 element in this. And remember, this particular condition will come first, right? So this will be at first position and this will be at our second position. This will be clear when I'll be explaining the code, but this is how we are going to code it. So that's about the explanation part. Now let us jump to the coding section in order to understand it. Okay, so I have already coded it. Now let us look at the code. So given an array, what we did is that we initialize our start to 0 and end to n-1, and then we have iterated while start is less than or equals to end, right? And let us say there isn't exist a transition point. In such cases, I'll return -1. Okay. Now what I did is that I calculated mid. Mid is equals to start plus end minus start, like I said. This, and then I'm checking if I have obtained my transition point. So this is the transition point check I am talking about. So the mid should be 1 and mid -1 should be equals to 0, right? So all the cases where zeros are present in the array, these two conditions should do. But it might be possible that the array contains only ones, in which case mid -1 is less than 0 should be there, and this will be an OR condition, right? So this will be an OR condition. If this condition is satisfied, then we will return mid. Otherwise, we are adjusting our start and end pointers appropriately. So if it is 0, then then we have to look for the element in the right part of the array. If it is equals to 1, then we have to look into the left part of the array. Okay, so that's about the coding aspect of it. Now let us submit our solution. Okay, so the solution got accepted. So that's about the video. That's about the explanation, folks. If you have any questions or queries, please feel free to drop it in a comment and I'll try to address them. Thank you.